Crime, Wine, and Chaos contains adult language and graphic content. Listener discretion is advised.
Here come the men in black, Chaos Kids. I'm Naomi.
Ooh, I'm Amber, and this is Crime, Wine, and Chaos.
Hey!
Hey! Here come the men in black.
Hey, sissy.
They're coming. Hey, sissy. They're coming for us. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I'm like day 2 of the period, so the cramping has come down significantly. I'm functioning more today. So thank you for accommodating, my lady time.
Always.
That.
Always. As a fellow lady, I get it.
Right. No, you do. I swear there's countries somewhere that literally give women all the time off that they need just for their period shit, right? That's a thing that exists in the good places, but we don't live in the good place. We're in the United States, you guys. We don't get time off for shit. So
is it somewhere in Scandinavia? I bet that sounds like a Scandinavian thing. Yeah. They're doing it right over there.
Or Norway or Finland. Yeah, totally. Where they're like, oh, you're a woman. You deserve to lay down with a heating pad once a month. It's fine. Go take care of yourself.
Sure.
Yeah. How are you? What's going on with you?
I'm great, thanks. This has nothing to do with anything, but I was telling you that I raced downstairs and assembled my meatballs before hitting record. And you just said Sweden, so I just wanted to share with you that I'm making Swedish meatballs.
Swedish?
Yeah. Going back to my roots here.
I love a Swedish meatball,
I do too. The family loves it. I am doing well. I've been dubbing this week as Hell Week for the last month, and I survived it, and I sort of am thriving,
You're thriving in the madness? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I was in the studio on Monday recording vocal tracks. Okay, listen, can I just do a little brag for a second?
Of course, yes.
So we're at London Bridge Studios, and the guy that's producing / engineering our album is one of the owners of the studio. He told me, and I think this is very odd because I consider myself to be a little bit of a weak vocalist in terms of easy fatigue.
Okay.
Likely from all my years of being a former smoker. But he was like, I don't think I've ever seen a vocalist go for that long without needing a break. And your voice is still crystal clear. He's like, that's amazing. And he was giving me pointers, and no big deal. So he produced Macklemore's album. And he was talking about the gal that sings the chorus on Macklemore's Same Love song. And he was like, this is what she did when she has this rainbow technique that she uses to get the high notes. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm not her. I am so far from that. But the fact that somebody who made that album is giving me pointers is I was just soaking it up. I was soaking up the critiques and the advice and the education. And I was like, this is fucking cool. I don't know when I would ever have somebody else of this level being able to direct me in my vocals. And anyway, all that to say is that cousin Jeremy pumped out rough tracks to me last night, and they sound really good. So I'm pleased. Awesome. And then I had my show on Tuesday night. That went really well. And yeah, it's Friday and I survived.
You survived, and you're going to spend all day on Monday in airplane mode with your devices.
I'm going to put my phone on. No, thank you. And I'm going to try and get to this book that I've been staring at on my nightstand.
I love it. Yeah. I want you to be in pajamas the whole day in the bed.
Me too. Sorry, that was a lot.
Tomorrow, no, that's great. Do not apologize. What is she doing? You guys, why is she saying sorry? What the fuck?
I don't know.
Just to make everyone jealous, tomorrow we're going to celebrate each other's birthdays, which are 6 months apart and both long gone at this point.
Yeah, long gone.
Meeting up for a dumpling fest at the Dough Zone. And I'm basically just living for tomorrow now. That's where I'm at. So
Same Z's.
We're gonna have a bunch of hot dumps, as my good friend Steve would say. And it's kind of like hot dumps is kind of like a bag of dicks. If you know, you know.
You know, if you know, you know.
So, sister.
Yes.
Are you gonna bring it down? You gonna bring it down with some big bummer murder story?
I am. I'm also drinking an iced coffee right now because it's
Oh
like
my God,
only
I totally forgot to ask you.
It's
I am
okay.
the worst.
It's only 2:00 and I just got off work. And so don't
But
worry.
you're off work. You could be drinking wine by now. I'm just
I
saying.
do have some errands to run. I have a bottle here that I'm going to crack open later of Apothic Red from California.
Okay,
So
great.
anyway, I've got a bummer of a story here for you. I found this new show I think I was on the Netflix called Text Me When You Get Home.
Oh no.
And that turned into sort of a hashtag thing in response to the Sarah Everard case out of the UK.
That's not ringing a bell.
Well, long story short is make sure someone knows that you are home. It's a hashtag. Make sure the ladies are home safe.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everyone that I'm close to, if I'm spending time with them and then leaving them alone in my car, will request that I text them when I'm home safely. Like that's common, like good. That's just good practice.
Okay, I don't know why I'm so chatty today, but I briefly dated this fucking douche canoe that
it happens to the best of us.
That actually chastised me and ended up bailing on our plans because I had said something sort of like that, like text me when you get home or be safe or whatever. And he's like, I don't need a fucking mom. I'm like, that is an act of love.
That's a red flag is what that is.
Yep, it sure was. Bye-bye.
I dated somebody who, when I asked them to start letting me know when they made it home, and he was like, what? And he was like weird about it. And I was like, I need to know you made it. Like, at the very least, you could literally run off the road and I would not know. Like, you could die in a ditch somewhere and I wouldn't know. Like, that's just like, to me, that's human decency. I mean, not even just, anyway. So text me when you get home.
That way. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to tell you about Queena Phu. Okay. So Queena and Anna are sisters. Queena is younger by 3 years. There's no brothers and they live with their single mom. Anna says that the three of them were just like this tight-knit group of women.
Okay.
So Queena and Anna's mom, Vanna Nguyen, said that Queena had a very big heart and was always nice to everybody. They live in a suburb of Tampa, and Queena was an excellent student. Her best friend, Rachel, said that she was always happy, super smart. She participated in a volunteer program at school called Best Buddy, where she was paired up with a student with disabilities and was their buddy for the entire year.
Oh,
I know. Best buddies.
That so much.
That's really cute. I want a best buddy.
Right?
She also volunteered at a hospice care center. I know. Queena and Rachel were best friends and inseparable. And Queena was 18 years old at the time and working in retail, where Rachel also worked. And even after spending the entire day together, the two of them would text each other. Like they were just constantly communicating with each other, right? Like besties.
Mm-hmm.
So Queena was super excited about graduation and heading off to college in the fall. She had a full scholarship to the University of Florida, and her dream was to go into fashion.
Okay.
So her senior prom was right around the corner, and she already had this fabulous dress picked out, and she was going in a group of 10 girls that were all close friends, and there were no boys allowed.
Love it. Love it.
I know.
Girl power.
Mm-hmm. So Queena worked at a clothing store in the mall, and it was usually late and dark when she got off work, and the mall parking lot was pretty large, and there wasn't any like employee parking up close. So sometimes it meant a bit of a walk in the dark alone to your car, right?
Hate it
too. But Rachel and Queena would regularly be on the phone with each other while the other was walking to their car.
I mean, that's the best you can get. That's better than nothing. Yep.
Right. And Queena's mom always told her to text her when she got home. They didn't specify this, but I had the feeling that maybe Queena's mom sometimes worked evenings.
Sure.
So yeah. And Queena was,
Queena would get home, but like mom wouldn't be there.
Right.
Right.
But she always texted like home safe, She was super on top of it when it came to that. So the Tampa area was already on high alert at this time after a recent violent sexual assault on a daycare worker in the Tampa suburb called Bloomingdale.
Mm-hmm.
In this assault, the attacker, he entered the facility in a mask. It was caught on security camera, but like this person was never caught. So it was like the wee morning hours, and the woman working had like just opened the center and was there by herself.
Ugh.
I know.
God.
And so people were kind of like, on edge because this had just happened and this person had never been caught. And this was super rare in Bloomingdale.
Right.
So Rachel says that her and Queena decided it was a good idea to exchange each other's families' numbers just in case the other needs to contact them. So Queena had Rachel's mom's number and vice versa, right? They were just taking extra precautions because of this.
Yeah.
Oh, these are smart young girls here. Women.
Yes. Smart young women.
Yes. Smart young women. So they do that. So this is like 10 months after that daycare attack, and Queena goes to her job at the mall after school. It's April 24th, 2008, which was a Thursday. Queena had just turned 18, and her and Rachel had plans to celebrate her birthday that weekend. So on that Thursday, one of the employees had called out sick, and so the manager had asked Queena to stay an hour later to help her close. So she worked until 9:45. She gets off and makes her usual call to Rachel, while she's walking to her car, and she's still talking to Rachel while she's driving home.
Okay.
So they're just chit-chatting about plans for the weekend, and Queena tells Rachel that she is stopping off at the library on her way home to drop a book in the book return, like the pull-up.
Yeah, like the little,
So at this time, it's around 10 p.m., So as she's driving up to the book return, she tells Rachel that there's a weird looking guy sitting on the bench in front of the library. And so Rachel's like, just stay on the phone with me, Rachel assumed that she was going to drive up and like drop her book in and that it wouldn't require her to get out of her car, but she could hear the door chime over the phone. So she asked Queena why she was getting out of her car. And Queena told her that her library book was in the back seat. So she had to get out and go to the back door, open it, and grab the book out, right?
Okay.
It was right in that moment that Rachel heard her scream, and then the phone went dead.
Oh, God.
I know. I can't. Oh, God. It's just chilling. So Rachel repeatedly tries to call her back, but it just keeps going to voicemail.
Fuck.
So, yeah. Rachel calls a mutual friend, Priscilla, who lives right by the library, and she asks her if she can go to the library and check on Queena, thinking that maybe it was a prank. I mean,
I'm making a face, you guys, because like if Queena pranked Rachel like that, it would be so fucked. And there's just no,
maybe hoping it was a prank, but knowing that it's not.
Okay.
I can imagine that your mind is trying to justify. You have no reference point for anything like that.
I mean, true.
I regularly too get like a complex or like a slight like embarrassment if I think I might be seriously overreacting. You know what I mean? I think people are hesitant to respond with urgency when they don't have all the information because like what if they look really stupid? But I say looking stupid is better than
Yes.
Yes,
I do know. And I totally agree.
Yeah. So Priscilla's on her way to the library, and Rachel, in the meantime, calls Queena's mom, Vanna. And at this time, it's 10:20. And Vanna was already starting to wonder why she hadn't heard from Queena yet because she never texted her that she was home. Rachel tells Vanna what happened and that Priscilla is on her way to the library. And Vanna says she's on her way and she's heads out to the library as well.
No one's called the police yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
So older sister Anna was about a half an hour away having a late dinner with her boyfriend when she checks her phone and sees that she has missed a couple of calls from her mom. So her mom had left a voicemail saying that Queena was missing or something, and she needed to call her back right away. So Anna calls her back, and Vanna says to come to the Bloomingdale Library right now. Queena has been kidnapped. Like, she's just guessing. There's a
Right.
dude there. She screamed, right? So she leaves the restaurant with her boyfriend, and she said they were hauling ass. But at one point, she was so anxious and so upset that she had him pull over so that she could throw up.
Oh,
Poor thing. So Priscilla was at the library by 10:40, which was about 30 minutes after Rachel heard Queena scream on the phone. And when she gets there, she sees Queena's car with the doors open, the engine running, and the radio on.
oh shit.
And her cell phone is on the ground right outside of her car in pieces.
Oh, fuck.
Mm-hmm. There is also blood all over the ground. So Priscilla calls 911.
Ugh. No.
Mm-hmm. So Vanna gets to the library just a few minutes after Priscilla, and Vanna said the scene was like a creepy movie with the car running and the radio on and the
blood everywhere, the doors open.
The doors open, and she said the chime for the door being open was just dinging, 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 dinging. Like, it's just eerie.
Creepy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So her and Priscilla are walking all over the library calling Queena's name. But Vanna said it was like pitch black out there and they couldn't see anything. And they're crying, which makes it worse.
Yeah.
And they're like frantically searching for her. At 10:50, first responders arrive just as Priscilla and Vanna are running towards something that they can see in a ditch behind the library.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm. Priscilla got there first and found Queena's lifeless body. And luckily, first responders were able to sort of intercept Vanna before she was able to get to Queena. Yeah. At 11:15, Anna and her boyfriend arrive at the library, and she sees a body on a stretcher being lifted into a helicopter, and Queena is airlifted to Tampa General Hospital. So this was just a little over an hour after that phone call where she was attacked.
Wow.
I know. So investigators arrive and start processing the scene. The cell phone is on the ground in two pieces, and it's 2008, so it's like a flip phone. So it's broken apart at like the hinge. And there's several drops of blood on the ground, and there's drops that like make a trail around the back side of the vehicle and then towards the front of the library. And then they continue to follow the blood trail around the back side of the library, where they find a backpack that had been dumped out with the contents scattered everywhere. There's a large blood spatter on the grass near the backpack contents, and there's also a bloody handprint on a no parking sign, and it like appeared as though Queena was grabbing on to the sign as she's being taken to the back of the library. I know. So while the investigation is going on, Queena's family and friends go to the hospital, and Vanna says that she wants to see her, but the staff said that she can't do that right now. They are working on her, but she's in good hands. An investigator...
She's alive.
Barely. Yeah. An investigator heads to the hospital as well to talk with Queena's family to try and find out if she had an ex-boyfriend or anyone that they could think of that might have done this. But Queena didn't have any boyfriends. I don't know that she had ever had a boyfriend.
Right.
And no enemies. Like, everybody loved her.
Yeah.
So they have an officer stay outside of Queena's hospital room because they had no idea who did this or what their motive was or anything. And the following morning, Queena is still clinging to life, but her family is able to see her, but they were not at all prepared for what they would see. So she is in a coma. She had been severely beaten and her eyes were swollen shut. She had a broken jaw and a broken nose.
A broken jaw?
Mm-hmm.
That's hard to do.
Mm-hmm. And here's a weird, this is twice now. She also had hundreds of ant bites because she had collapsed on top of an anthill.
What?
That's the second time that, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Then Anna has her mom step out because this is so heartbreaking. She learns from the nurses that Queena had been raped. So Anna has her mom step out so that she can assist the nurses with the rape kit. And so that mom didn't have to do that. It's so sad. I know. At 3:00, the day after the attack, Queena wakes up. She is kicking and screaming and saying, "Why can't I see?"
Oh,
And she's,
no.
And she's saying, "Did they find him? What happened to me?" Her sister tells her they are looking for him, but doesn't share anything else with her at that time. The police ask her what she can remember, but she says she doesn't remember anything after getting out of her car at the library. And at one point, Queena asks her sister if she can still go to prom next week. And Anna's like, "Of course you can. We'll do some makeup magic and you'll go to prom." Yeah. Ugh, I know. So investigators are able to piece her phone back together enough to look through it. And they're hoping to find someone that maybe she had been in regular communication with that might help give them a clue, but there's nothing. All they have is Rachel saying that Queena told her that there was a weird looking guy on the bench. So the police send out a press release to all of the news channels hoping they could get some tips.
Right.
Yeah.
At this point, are they putting it together that it might be the same guy that attacked that childcare worker yet?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. Then Queena starts to decline. So she has a seizure, and a CT scan shows that her brain is swelling. And the doctors tell her mom and sister that she has a condition where I'm not a doctor. I mean, I'd like to think that I am. So her brain is...
You're an FBI profiler, but you're not a doctor.
Okay, yes. To put it very dumbly, her brain is swelling, and the more brain cells she's using, the more it's swelling. And so there is a condition for that, and I don't know what it's called. So they want to put her into a medically induced coma so that she has very little brain activity.
Right.
Okay. Whew. Made it through that one. Words are hard. They said they're not positive that she will wake up, but it's basically their only hope is to do this.
Oh, shit.
And they also learned that in addition to being beaten and having a skull fracture, Queena was also strangled, cutting off oxygen to her brain, which is likely what caused her to have several strokes.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. And although her eyes were swollen, the reason she couldn't see was because she had actually lost sight. She had gone blind from the strangulation.
Oh, no. Is it permanent?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So the community and law enforcement are now starting to wonder if this is the same attacker from the daycare and if they have like a serial rapist in their community. So they encourage anyone with information to call in. Then a guy from the high school calls in and says that he and his dad drove through the library book drop that night around 9:30, and there was someone sitting on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned to his dad and said, "Hey, I know that kid. That's Kendrick Morris." Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. So Kendrick is a sophomore at Bloomingdale High School. So based on the phone call to Rachel, investigators know that the attack on Queena started at 10:08, which was when the call dropped and her phone stopped working.
Mm-hmm.
And they have Kendrick on the bench at 9:30, according to that other witness. So they take a look. This is pretty smart. They pull all of the books out of the book drop and start calling everyone who dropped off their books, asking them what time they made their drop.
Uh-huh.
And there was only one lady who dropped her book off at 10. And she said that she saw Kendrick sitting on that bench at 10.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. She said she even spoke to him and asked him if he needed a ride. And he told her that he was waiting for his mom to pick him up. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So now they have him there as close as 8 minutes prior to the attack.
He's a sophomore. He's like 15 or 16 years old.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my my
A
God.
ba- I know. A background check on Kendrick shows that he had a previous arrest for cruelty to animals.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. So the detectives go to the library and start interviewing staff who worked there. And while they are there, in walks Kendrick Morris.
To the library?
Uh-huh. Yeah, because apparently he is a regular there so that he can use the internet and get on MySpace. Man, 2008. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So police take him down to the station and call his mom, but mom refuses to allow him to be interviewed, and so he's released. His mom's like, no, you're not talking to him. So another piece of evidence that was found at the scene was a plastic utensil from Wendy's that was filed into a point.
What? What
Yeah,
are we doing? Like
he made a shank out
prison shiv style?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So they pulled prints from the utensil and compared it to other prints found at the scene, and they're the same fingerprints. Then they compare it to Kendrick's prints, and it's a match. So the following day, Kendrick Morris is arrested, and they get a search warrant to collect his DNA. Meanwhile, the doctors take Queena out of the medically induced coma, and she isn't waking up.
Oh, no.
Yeah. They tell the family that she may never wake up because the damage to her brain was so severe. But Vanna and Anna would hear none of this. So Anna brings things into the hospital room that she knows she loves. She plays her favorite songs, and she is positive that she sees Queena smile, and she is hopeful that she will wake up.
Okay.
This also reminds me of the
Terry Schiavo.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So at this time, it's been 2 weeks since the attack. So detectives are waiting for these DNA results, and they continue their investigation. So very near the library is a McDonald's. So they collect the CCTV from the McDonald's, and they see Kendrick inside of the McDonald's that night on CCTV. And this is after the attack, and he orders a Happy Meal. He just sits down and eats a Happy Meal.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah. At the 3-week mark. Oh, yeah. What? No, tell me.
Nothing. I'm over here with out words, just shaking my head. I just sigh.
I mean, yeah. At the 3-week mark, social workers meet with Vanna and are trying to encourage her to choose a facility where they can transfer Queena to so she can basically exist in a vegetative state. But Vanna refuses to accept this and insists that Queena will wake up. And miraculously, Queena does wake up. She isn't able to talk, but she does smile and laugh. And so the family decides to take her out of Tampa Hospital and transfer her to a rehabilitation center in Sarasota.
Okay.
Then the DNA evidence comes back, and Kendrick Morris is a match to the DNA collected from the rape kit. Oh, yeah. And then they see him on CCTV footage. Okay. So he goes after the attack, he goes and orders 2 Happy Meals. And then he goes over to Walmart and is playing on the video game.
Like in the electronics department?
Yes. He is a child. A giant
He's like
child.
15 or 16 years old.
Yes. So Queena, she is alive, but she can't speak or walk or eat. She communicates with sounds and facial expressions. She gets a little bit stronger every day, but, it's just fucking devastating. So then they submit Kendrick's DNA to the national database, and it comes back as a match to the unsolved sexual assault at the daycare 10 months prior.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. In that case, the daycare worker that he assaulted was a 62-year-old woman.
Oh my God.
And he was 15 at the time. What the fuck? What the fuck?
This kid is fucked up.
Mm-hmm. So in September of 2010, Kendrick goes to trial for the attack on Queena. Rachel and Anna both attend the trial on behalf of Queena. On October 6, 2010, jurors deliberated for less than an hour before they found him guilty. They also found him guilty of the sexual assault at the daycare, and he was sentenced to 2 concurrent 65-year sentences.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's been 14 years since the attack on Queena. She lives with her mom and requires round the clock care. This
Oh
is
God.
heartbreaking. 10 years after the attack, a senior from Bloomingdale High School who had volunteered and had befriended Queena, I think maybe in that same buddy program,
Uh-huh.
asked her to prom.
Oh.
Her face, they captured it on photo, is priceless. The smile on her face. And then a local seamstress, I'm going to cry, took the dress that Queena still had for her prom that she never went to and custom fit it so that it would fit with her wheelchair. And Queena went to prom. I know. Yeah. That is Queena Phu.
Oh my God, Amber.
I know.
I'm very emotional this week anyway.
I know.
Jesus fucking Christ.
But amen to her friends and the phone tree that they had going and all the things.
All the things, because I was thinking that because if she was not on the phone with Rachel, if they did not have each other's mom's numbers, like if they did not have this like system, like she could have been not found for a long time and not lived. She might not have lived.
No.
The fact that she was found like within an hour of it happening, I mean, that's huge.
I know.
And that's because of their safety system.
Yep.
Sisters form a circle.
This penis party's got to go.
Hey, ho, ho.
Ho.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Fuck.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Whew. Well, thank you for that, sister.
You're welcome.
Poor Queena.
Poor Queena.
How about some chaos?
Okay. Okay.
All right. I'm going to tell you about the Battle of Los Angeles. Have you ever heard of this?
No. Battle of Los Angeles.
So we're going to start a little before these events. In September of 1940, that's when Japan decided that its best interest was to join Germany and Italy in the war against the Western Allies. At this point, the U.S. was not an active participant in the war. The U.S. was not the international police it is known as today. In fact, Hitler had a fair amount of support amongst the business elite in the United States. And the U.S. famously turned away a ship of thousands of Jewish refugees seeking asylum from the Nazis in the summer of 1942.
Cool.
Near the end of that year, December 7th of 1942, just a few months after Japan allied with Germany and Italy, Japan attacked the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor in Honolulu, Hawaii. The U.S. and Japan had been in negotiations for months prior to the attack. The U.S. at this time still a neutral player in regards to the war. Japan had been busy working on its own empire in Asia while the Nazis tried to take over Europe. And anticipating that the U.S. wasn't going to concede to what Japan wanted, Japan launched a preemptive attack. When all was said and done, all 8 of the U.S. Navy battleships docked at Pearl Harbor were damaged. 4 of them actually sunk, along with a bunch of other vessels sunk or damaged. 2,403 Americans were killed. 1,178 were wounded. Within days, the U.S. and the U.K. declared war on Japan, Germany, and Italy, and the U.S. had officially begun its era of boots on the ground in just about every country in the world. As you can imagine, the citizens of the U.S. were shook, and especially on the West Coast of the U.S., there was a heightened sense of danger that Japan could show up invading North America or bombing the major cities there at any time.
Yeah, sure.
Just over 2 months later, President Roosevelt would sign Executive Order 9066, which gave the U.S. military authority to exclude any persons from designated areas within 12 restricted zones along the Pacific coast that the War Department created earlier that month, along with established nighttime curfews for Japanese Americans within them.
I hate everything right now.
Although the word Japanese did not appear in the executive order, it was clear that only Japanese Americans were targeted, though some other immigrants, including Germans, Italians, and Aleuts, were also targeted. It would be the following month in March of 42 that the War Relocation Authority would be created to start the process of the systematic rounding up and internment of Japanese Americans. And let's call them what they were. These were concentration camps, the very thing that the U.S. was supposedly sending all its men to war to put an end to in Europe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The events in Los Angeles I'm about to tell you about surely fanned the flames of racism and fear that would lead to the formation of these camps. Like I said, Americans on the West Coast were very afraid that the Japanese would attack them in their coastal cities. In Juneau, Alaska, residents were told to cover their windows for a nightly blackout after rumors spread that Japanese submarines were lurking along the southeast Alaskan coast. Rumors that a Japanese aircraft carrier was cruising off the coast of the San Francisco Bay resulted in the city of Oakland closing its schools and issuing a blackout. Civil defense sirens mounted on patrol cars from the Oakland Police Department blared through the city, and radio silence was ordered.
God, that must have been creepy.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-mm.
The city of Seattle also imposed a blackout of all buildings and vehicles, and owners who left the lights on in their buildings had their businesses smashed by a mob of 2,000 residents.
Oh, they were just like on the streets, like making sure people were compliant?
That's right.
Okay. Whoa.
But let's go fight fascism over there, Amber.
Sure.
Right.
God.
The rumors were taken so seriously that 500 United States Army troops moved into the Walt Disney Studios lot in Burbank, California to defend it and nearby factories against enemy sabotage or air attacks.
They're defending Disneyland?
Well, Disney Studios, sure, you know.
Oh, God. Disney makes an appearance again. Disney and the Nazis.
Disney and the Nazis. They're like this. I'm making they're besties. As the U.S. began gearing up for war, anti-aircraft guns were installed, bunkers were built, and air raid precautions were drilled into the populace all over the country. Contributing to the paranoia was the fact that many American merchant ships were indeed attacked by Japanese submarines in waters off the West Coast, especially from the last half of December in 1941 through February 1942. No less than 14 of them, many of them, were sunk. So on the 23rd of February 1942, while President Roosevelt was giving one of his fireside chats, which, for those who don't know, they were these radio addresses that he gave throughout his presidency where he'd talk to the American public in a very friendly and familiar kind of way that made them feel like he was sitting with them in their living rooms.
No, thank you.
Yes. So at that time, at the very beginning of his address, his fireside chat that night, a Japanese submarine surfaced near Santa Barbara, California, and fired at the Elwood oil field in Goleta. The damage was actually really minimal. No humans were even hurt. And the price on the equipment damage was equivalent to like $9,000 today. But regardless, this just proved Americans' fear of the possibility that Japan would storm the beaches of California or whatever, right?
Sure.
The next day, on February 24th, the Office of Naval Intelligence issued a warning that an attack on California could be expected within the next 10 hours. Later that evening, there were a bunch of flares and blinking lights near some defense plants. I couldn't figure out what that means, like defense plants. I don't know, like if manufacturing.
Disney Studios.
I don't know.
Okay.
And so an alert was called at 7:18 p.m. It was lifted 3 hours later, just before 10:30 p.m. Some, quote, renewed activity began in the early hours of the 25th. So like the middle of the night. And so it's the middle of the night on the 25th, and the air raid sirens go off at 2:25 a.m. all over LA County. A total blackout is ordered.
That would be fucking terrifying to wake up to.
This is Los Angeles.
Uh-huh.
Let's be clear. This is Los Angeles, LA County, California.
Oh my God.
Thousands of air raid wardens were summoned to their positions. So from what I can tell, these are like the people in the office who are assigned to wear the red vest and hold the clipboard and take a head count when there's like an emergency drill in the building. You know what I'm talking about? That's what the wardens are. They make sure people are safe during an air raid, right?
Do they have a whistle though? Do they have a whistle?
Probably. They probably have a whistle and like a red vest and like a clipboard. That's what I think. I don't know. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. So at 3:16 a.m., the 37th Coast Artillery Brigade began firing 50 caliber machine guns and 12.8 pound anti-aircraft shells into the air at reported aircraft over the city of Los Angeles.
Shut your ass. Over the city?
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
Over 1,400 shells were eventually fired.
Whoa.
Pilots of the 4th Interceptor Command were alerted, but their aircraft remained grounded. The artillery fire continued sporadically until 4:14 a.m. So this is like a couple hours. The all clear was sounded and the blackout order was lifted at 7:20 a.m., basically as the sun came up. Several buildings and vehicles were damaged by shell fragments, and 5 civilians died as an indirect result of the anti-aircraft fire. 3 were killed in car accidents in the ensuing chaos, and 2 of heart attacks that were attributed to the stress of this hours-long action.
No shit.
And of course, the incident was front page news the next day across the whole United States.
Mm-hmm.
Within hours of the end of the air raid, Secretary of the Navy Frank Knox held a press conference saying the entire incident had been a false alarm due to anxiety and, quote, war nerves.
Okay. My anxiety got the best of me, so I just started fucking launching missiles into the air. No, have some chamomile tea and take a bath if you're anxious. Fuck.
Don't get me started on tea time, Amber. The last time we had tea time, it went bad. So let's just take a break for tea and come back in like 45 minutes. It'll be fine.
Well, shit. Quell your anxiety in a different
way. The residents of Bhopal, how they feel about taking a tea time first.
God. Fair enough. But
his comments were followed up by statements from the Army the next day. So this is Navy guy. So the Army says basically the incident might have been caused by enemy agents using commercial airplanes in a psychological warfare campaign to generate mass panic. So the Navy and the Army are now saying different things.
Sure. Are you telling me that was a commercial aircraft?
That's what the Army's saying it could have been. It might have been.
Even better. Right. Even better. They're just trying to come into LAX and they're just like, what the fuck? Can you imagine? I'm just
like coming in from Toledo.
Yeah, I'm just trying to take my family to Disneyland. My fucking plane got shot out of the sky.
Disneyland exists yet. Yeah,
oh.
Disneyland go.
I feel like Disney is responsible for all of this.
It's always Disney or the Nazis.
Someone needs
one and the same. One and the same.
Oh my God.
So some journalists published some pieces questioning these narratives and suggested there was some kind of cover-up going on here. A writer for the newspaper The Long Beach Independent wrote, quote, "There is a mysterious reticence about the whole affair, and it appears that some form of censorship is trying to halt discussion on the matter."
You don't say.
There were rumors flying that these were invading airplanes tied to a secret base in northern Mexico.
But
another rumor was that Japan had a submarine offshore with the capability of carrying aircraft, and that's what had been in the skies over LA that night.
Okay.
Some called it a false flag, basically in order to stoke the fear of Americans, especially on the West Coast, giving the coastal defense forces an excuse to move even further inland.
That sounds more plausible.
Right? Knowing what we know about the government and their false flag. Side note, it's become like almost common knowledge at this point that The American public was not interested in joining the war. They did not want to have anything to do with Europe's war. They didn't care about what was going on. They didn't care about Hitler. They didn't care about Japan. They didn't care about any of it. And that Roosevelt had foreknowledge that Pearl Harbor was coming, and he actually allowed an attack to happen in order to garner public support to go to war.
Shit.
It happens all the time, by the way. This shit happens all the time. A representative out of Santa Monica wanted a congressional investigation saying that, quote, none of the explanations so far offered removed the episode from the category of complete mystification. This was either a practice raid or a raid to throw a scare into 2 million people, or a mistaken identity raid, or a raid to lay a political foundation to take away Southern California's war industries. Which I'm not really sure what that last one was about. But in 1983, so 40 years later, the U.S. Office of Air Force History published a report that stated, in part, this is a bit, but follow me here.
Mm-hmm.
During the course of a fireside report to the nation delivered by President Roosevelt on the 23rd of February, 1942, a Japanese submarine rose out of the sea off Elwood, a hamlet on the California coast north of Santa Barbara, and pumped 13 shells into Tidewater refinery installations. The shots seemed designed to punctuate the president's statement that, quote, the broad oceans which have been heralded in the past as our protection from attack have become endless battlefields on which we are constantly being challenged by our enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the attack, which was supposed to carry the enemy's defiance and which did succeed in stealing headlines from the president's address, was a feeble gesture rather than a damaging blow.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it gets interesting. Loyal Japanese Americans who had predicted that a demonstration would be made in connection with the president's speech also prophesied that Los Angeles would be attacked the next night. The Army, too, was convinced that some new action impended and took all possible precautions. Newspapers were permitted to announce that a strict state of readiness against renewed attacks had been imposed, and there followed the confused action known as the Battle of Los Angeles. So when they said there was an attack imminent in 10 hours, that came from these loyal Japanese Americans.
Oh, gotcha.
During the night of 24-25 February 1942, unidentified objects caused a succession of alerts in Southern California. On the 24th, a warning issued by Naval Intelligence indicated that an attack could be expected within the next 10 hours. That evening, many flares and blinking lights were reported from the vicinity of defense plants. There was something going on. Early in the morning of the 25th, renewed activity began. Radars picked up an unidentified target 120 miles west of Los Angeles. Anti-aircraft batteries were put on green alert, ready to fire a few minutes later. Radars tracked the approaching target to within a few miles of the coast, and at 2:21 a.m., the regional controller ordered a blackout. Thereafter, the information center was flooded with reports of, quote, enemy planes, even though the mysterious object tracked in from sea seems to have vanished. Mm-hmm. At 2:43, planes were reported near Long Beach, and a few minutes later, a Coast Artillery colonel spotted, quote, about 25 planes at 12,000 feet over Los Angeles. So an artillery colonel claims there were 25 planes at 12,000 feet over LA.
Holy shit.
At 3:06, a balloon carrying a red flare was seen over Santa Monica, and 4 batteries of anti-aircraft artillery opened fire, whereupon, quote, the air over Los Angeles erupted like a volcano.
Whoa.
From this point on, reports were hopelessly at variance. Nothing can be believed at this point.
Right.
Everybody had a crazy story. Probably much of the confusion came from the fact that anti-aircraft shell bursts caught by the searchlights were themselves mistaken for enemy planes. In any case, the next 3 hours produced some of the most imaginative reporting of the war. Of the war, this report says.
Uh-huh.
Swarms of planes, or sometimes balloons, of all possible sizes, numbering from 1 to several hundred, traveling at altitudes which ranged from a few thousand feet to more than 20,000 feet, and flying at speeds which were said to have varied from very slow to over 200 miles per hour, were observed to parade across the skies.
Oh my God. Okay.
These mysterious forces dropped no bombs, and despite the fact that 1,440 rounds of anti-aircraft ammunition were directed against them, suffered no losses.
Mm-hmm.
There were reports, to be sure, that 4 enemy planes had been shot down, and one was supposed to have landed in flames at a Hollywood intersection.
Oh, sure. People they missed it because they were on their, lockdown lights out.
Right.
Yeah,
Residents in a 40-mile arc along the coast watched from hills or rooftops as the play of guns and searchlights provided the first real drama of the war for citizens of the mainland.
Fun.
The dawn, which ended the shooting and the fantasy, also proved that this is an official report.
Mm-hmm.
The fantasy also proved that the only damage was resulted to the city was such as had been caused by the excitement, by traffic accidents in the blacked out streets, or by shell fragments from the artillery barrage.
Mm-hmm.
Attempts to arrive at an explanation of the incident quickly became as involved and mysterious as the battle, air quotes, itself. The Navy immediately insisted that there was no evidence of the presence of enemy planes, and Secretary of the Navy Frank Knox announced at a press conference that the raid was just a false alarm. At the same conference, he admitted that attacks were always possible and indicated that vital industries located along the coast ought to be moved inland.
Mm-hmm.
The Army had a hard time making up its mind on the cause of the alert. A report to Washington made by the Western Defense Command shortly after the raid had ended indicated that the credibility of reports of an attack had begun to be shaken before the blackout was even lifted. This message predicted that developments would prove, quote, that most previous reports had been greatly exaggerated.
God, this is ridiculous.
It's insane,
This
right?
is fucking ridiculous. Uh-huh.
It's like Keystone Cops, but with the Army and the Navy. The 4th Air Force had indicated its belief that there were no planes over Los Angeles. So now the Air Force is saying there were no planes.
Mm-hmm.
The Navy's like, we're not really sure, but we aren't safe here. The Army is like, there were planes. We're pretty sure there were planes. And the Navy's like, no planes. But the Army did not publish these initial conclusions. Instead, it waited a day until after a thorough examination of witnesses had been finished. On the basis of these hearings, local commanders altered their verdict and indicated a belief that from 1 to 5 unidentified airplanes had been over Los Angeles. So that was the Army, doubling down.
Okay.
There are 2 theories to account for the mysterious aircraft. Either they were commercial planes operated by an enemy from secret fields in California or Mexico, or they were light planes launched from Japanese submarines. In either case, the enemy's purpose must have been to locate anti-aircraft defenses in the area or to deliver a blow at civilian morale. So it was either recon or psychological warfare.
Sure.
The divergence of views between the War and Navy departments and the unsatisfying conjectures advanced by the Army to explain the affair. The way they write this is the unsatisfying conjectures advanced by the Army. Or these fucking whack jobs in the Army who are making shit up, touched off a vigorous public discussion. The Los Angeles Times, in a first-page editorial on the 26th of February, announced that, quote, the considerable public excitement and confusion caused by the alert, as well as its spectacular official accompaniments, demand a careful explanation.
No shit.
Wendell Wilkie, speaking in Los Angeles on the 26th of February, assured Californians on the basis of his experiences in England that when a real air raid began, quote, you won't have to argue about it. You'll just know. Fucking babies. You don't know what an air raid is. He conceded that military authorities had been correct in calling a precautionary alert, but deplored the lack of agreement between the Army and the Navy. A strong editorial in the Washington Post on this 27th of February called the handling of the Los Angeles episode a, quote, recipe for jitters. And censured the military authorities for what it called, quote, stubborn silence in the face of widespread uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
The editorial suggested that the Army's theory that commercial planes might have caused the alert, quote, explains everything except where the planes came from, whither they were going, and why no American planes were sent in pursuit of them.
Right?
Right.
Oh, shit. Yeah. What the fuck?
The New York Times on the 28th of February expressed a belief that the more the incident was studied, the more incredible it became. Quote, if the batteries were firing on nothing at all, as Secretary Knox implies, it is a sign of expensive incompetence and jitters.
Expensive incompetence. Doesn't the air traffic controller know if there was a plane in the sky or not?
I don't
Isn't that
know.
pretty easy to just be like, yes or no? It's pretty cut and dry.
I feel like it goes on. If the batteries were firing on real planes, some of them as low as 9,000 feet, as Secretary Stimson declares, why were they completely ineffective? Why did no American planes go up to engage them or even to identify them? What would have happened if this had been a real air raid?
No shit. Hold on. Time out.
These questions were appropriate, but for the War Department to have answered them in full frankness would have involved an even more complete revelation of the weakness of American air defenses. That's what the report says. At the end of the war, the Japanese stated that they did not send planes over the area at the time of this alert. Although submarine-launched aircraft were subsequently used over Oregon. A careful study of the evidence suggests that meteorological balloons known to have been released over Los Angeles may well have caused the initial alarm.
Meteorological weather balloons?
Weather
It
balloons.
was fucking weather balloons? This whole... I can't. I can't. I quit.
This theory is supported by the fact that anti-aircraft artillery units were officially criticized for having wasted ammunition on targets which moved too slowly to have been airplanes. After the firing started, careful observation was difficult because of drifting smoke from shell bursts. The acting commander of the anti-aircraft artillery brigade in the area testified that he had first been convinced that he had seen 15 planes in the air, but had quickly decided that he was seeing smoke.
Oh. God, I constantly am confusing smoke and planes. I hate it when I do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Competent correspondents like Ernie Pyle and Bill Henry witnessed the shooting and wrote that they were never able to make out an airplane. It is hard to see in any event what enemy purpose would have been served by an attack in which no bombs were dropped, unless perhaps, as Mr. Stimson suggested, the purpose had been reconnaissance. That's the end of that snippet from that report. So all that said, this incident is very highly interesting to the ufologist crowd. There's a photo that has been pointed out to be highly doctored. At this point, it's been debunked that UFO believers claim it shows that what the U.S. Anti-Aircraft Brigade was actually seeing and shooting at was a massive UFO event. And no amount of pointing out the fakery of this photo will deter some of them from continuing to believe so.
Sure.
I will point out that the famous Roswell incident occurred only 5 years later, and it was also attributed to a weather balloon, a story that many people to this day also believe to be untrue. So was it aliens? Was there actually aircraft, or were all those gunners just firing into the empty night sky for an hour, just running on vibes?
Just running on vibes. Well, first off, there's a few aliens in this tale. I'll tell you that right now. My God.
That is the Battle of Los Angeles, Amber.
Wow, sister. Wow. I cannot. Fuck. Running on vibes.
I mean, right?
Wow. I have never heard of that. Thank you. Fuck. I can't.
Don't, when you think
Oops,
that,
sorry.
you know, these serious men with these serious jobs and serious weaponry are, you know, I don't know, super competent or something. Just remember the Battle of Los Angeles and rest assured that they're running around with all that fancy tech and they actually are. I'm pretty sure they're all just running on vibes. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure.
Aren't we
they're all
all
just running on
though?
vibes.
Aren't we all though? You know?
It could have been aliens though. It could have been aliens.
Sure.
Could have
Absolutely.
been.
God.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, sister. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. We needed a palate cleanse. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hey, we have shouty outies that I forgot at the top.
We have
of the show.
shouty outies. You're right.
Yeah. Do you want me to do shouty outies?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes, please. We have some new Chaos Kid Club members.
We do.
We have Katie C. Boop, boop. Thank you,
Katie.
Katie.
Welcome.
Hey, Katie. Welcome. We have Carissa.
Carissa
explains it all. And someone that goes by Bean.
Bean.
Love you, Bean.
That's awesome. That's adorable. I love that. Hi, Bean. Welcome. Thanks for joining the club.
And I also
officially. Oh, sorry. I was going to say we officially have to schedule a virtual wine night now because we're well over the 30 mark. So we're going to have another virtual wine night very soon. Chaos Kids.
Very, very soon. I also want to say a thank you to Jackie C for the very nice email and the story suggestion.
We also got a very nice email from Susan.
Yeah. I feel, well, she signed off Susie. I feel like we're at Susie status.
We can call her Susie now.
I want to because it's adorable.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, Susie was very pleased with the episode, which always makes us happy because we want to make sure we do right by people, you know? Always. And there's some, she said that they're using Larry's case as some sort of training in the police department over there in Yakima. And they're the cold case people are looking into it. So it's still ongoing, you guys. It's still ongoing.
Well, yeah, I am emotionally attached to that case now.
Yeah.
So hopefully some movement happens for Susie and her family.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you guys know all the things, you know, Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. We're all over there. I'm on those some of those platforms too. You can find me there, follow us there. Give us a review if you're whatever you're streaming us on, give us a little star rating so people can find us. And if you're on an Apple product, go into that Apple podcast app and give us like typey, like give us a little typey review. We love those.
We love those.
Yeah. And sister, that was chaotic.
So fucking chaotic. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Crime, Wine, and Chaos is produced by 8th Direction Records. Artwork by Joshua M. Davis. Music by Paul Abner. If you would like to support the show, you can visit our Patreon page at crimewineandchaos.com/Patreon. Cheers.
Tell him you are busy.
Listen, last I spoke to him, I was recording at 4.
I mean, fair enough.